Thank you, everyone. I'd like to show our appreciation to Warren County Economic Development Committee and the Warren County Agricultural Board for co-hosting this event today. I'm Janice Riga, USDA Rural Development. I'm an area director working out of Hackettstown, and one of our partners co-located in the Hackettstown office, Jill Ott, is here from NRCS. Our state office is located in Mount Laurel, and Maryann Tancredi is our business programs director. Some of you may know me as the business programs director. I was transferred to Hackettstown because I live in Warren County and have worked in Warren County, Sussex, and Morris and Warren for many years. So I'm familiar with the conditions here, and how I ended up with USDA was I was running an SBDC, a Small Business Development Center. And I found that many ag producers were coming to me looking for assistance with value-added type business ventures for commercial kitchens. So I ended up being recruited by USDA to help advance some of those interests of the agricultural producers in rural economies in New Jersey. And that's where I live, work, and play, and have for 30-some years. So Maryann Tancredi will be kicking off the presentation today, but we also have other critical partners with us who will help us deliver some information and services that are critical to you for your renewable energy and energy efficiency interests. We don't want to be silos. We want to be able to bring everybody in front of you so you can utilize the a la carte services that are here and then combine them as a package for your project. So also with me are our representatives from TRC companies who work for New Jersey BPU and represent the utility companies. So representative from JCP&L is also here. So we have Maryann Tancredi kicking us off today for USDA. And then Eziokwubundu will be representing TRC. Your Jerry Medrano will be representing JCP&L. And last but not least is, I already introduced Jill Ott from NRCS, but Laura Tesseri from North Jersey RC&D, who has received a grant from us for the last 2 years to help agricultural producers. So then again, we're here to hear information. So let's get started with Maryann Tancredi. And thanks again for joining us, those of you who are in the room and those of you that are joining us virtually. Thank you so much. Did we start recording?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. I want to get started by just a couple of housekeeping items. Just want to ask those at home to make sure that you're on mute until you are asking a question. For those of you here, there are refreshments in the hall. Restrooms are to the left outside of the meeting room on the right-hand side. And we'll be checking the chat periodically for questions. And so I'm going to get started with our presentation. Today, we're going to be talking about the Inflation Reduction Act and the Rural Energy for America program at Rural Development. Again, my name is Maryann Tancredi. I joined USDA Rural Development in January of 2020, just in time for the pandemic. I have 20 plus years experience in economic development and small business lending. So REAP. REAP is a program that provides guaranteed loans and grants to two types of applicants, your ag producers and your small businesses. And that's for renewable energy systems or to make energy efficiency improvements. The most recent announcement for REAP came out on April 1st, and that is for grants that will cover up to 50% of your total eligible project costs. You can combine a grant and a guaranteed loan for up to 75% financing of your total project costs. The funding available through the Inflation Reduction Act has set aside over $1 billion in REAP funds and $144 million for underutilized technologies. The grants were increased by 50%, so what we used to be 250 and 500,000 are now 500,000 and $1 million. And the funding used to be twice a year. It's now going across 6 quarterly cycles. Again, you can get up to a 50% share on all energy efficiency projects, any zero emission renewable energy systems, and anything that's designated in an energy community. We have a list that we can provide of what those energy communities are. Anything that doesn't fit into one of those categories can get up to 25% grant to total project costs, but almost everything falls into that 50% share. The timeline. So the first deadline for this year was March 31st. We are currently reviewing those applications. We, in a typical year, would receive under 10 applications. With this additional funding, this year we've received 26 applications. So we're very happy with that, but we're looking for more. The next round opened on April 1st, and the deadline is June 30th. And then there's another window that will open immediately on July 1st with a deadline of September 30th. I want to pause here for a second because I want to point out that as of October 1st, we will be using the 2020 census. And that could potentially change some of the eligibility in some of the areas for small businesses. So if you're a small business owner and you're interested in this program, I would recommend that you try to get your application in by the June 30th deadline, just so we don't run into any issues with eligibility around the changing in the census information. So, like I said, the Renewable Energy for America program is 2 parts. It's a renewable energy system or energy efficiency improvements. So let me pause here for a moment and give you a couple of examples of projects that we've done in the state of New Jersey, more specifically in this area. In Annandale, we did a solar array, a large solar array. Some of you may be familiar with the Donaldson greenhouse. We did a grant for them for a solar curtain. Unionville Vineyards and Hopewell Valley Vineyards have both accessed this program for solar. So those are just a couple of examples that you might be familiar with. When I spoke about eligibility, and I said there's 2 different applicant types. Small businesses have to be located in a rural area. So this eligibility map becomes very important for small businesses. For you agricultural producers, so long as you derive more than 50% of your income from your farm operations on your tax returns, this doesn't apply. You can be anywhere in the state. So let me talk a little bit about the applicant eligibility. I've said several times, ag producers or small businesses. Those are the only 2 types of entities that are eligible to apply for this program. An ag producer, again, must derive 50% or more of their income from agricultural production, and small businesses must meet the SBA's definition of small business, which over 98% of the businesses in this country meet that definition. Again, ag producers can be located anywhere in the state. And I should also point out that nonprofits can be considered as ag producers as long as they meet that 50% rule. Otherwise, you must be in a rural area. You could be an electric cooperative or a utility and apply for this program. Those are the only 2 types of nonprofits that really meet the eligibility requirement. What can you use this money for? So here's some examples. Under the energy efficiency, you could do lighting, heating, cooling, ventilation, insulation. And then on the renewable energy side, obviously your solar, but anaerobic digesters, geothermal. We recently did a geothermal project in East Windsor for a cut flower farm. That was a very successful project. You may have seen that in and around the news. So eligible use of funds. You can use this to purchase and install equipment. All of these other applications here, just to point out, there's no residential. This is strictly commercial. And again, up to 50% of eligible project costs. So we oftentimes get asked, well, what's the minimum we can ask for? The minimum is $1,500 for energy efficiency and $2,500 for renewable energy systems. And there again are your minimum and maximum. You can apply for both. The maximum you can apply for though is $1.5 million. Under this program, there's also a guaranteed loan. Again, you can get up to 75% of the project costs using the guaranteed loan. Maximum loan is $25 million. Minimum is $5,000. The guaranteed loan, if anyone is interested, the lender is the applicant. The lender applies on your behalf. The rates and terms are set by the lender, and we review the project. We don't re-underwrite the project, but again, up to 75% of the total project cost can be in a guaranteed loan. So at this point, that was a lot of information. So I just want to highlight a few things. Obviously, no residential, no shared metering. If you have a residence on your farm, you have to have separate meters. Again, unless you're an ag producer, you have to be in an eligible area, and you have 2 years to complete the project. There are 3 levels of application. There is a 80,000 and below. There is an 80 to 200,000, and then there's a 200,000 and up. Each level of application requires additional documentation. And only after you receive notification that we have a complete application, are you eligible to incur any costs. In order to apply, we have an energy coordinator. We have some business cards and some information over here. Helen Worst is our energy coordinator. She can be contacted. I didn't bring any applications here today because of that 3 different tiers. You need to know what your project size is. So it's more advantageous for us to actually email you the application. And so we prefer that they be emailed, but they can also be delivered to our office. I want to pause here to see if anybody has any questions specific to this program before we move on to the next presenters. We will obviously reserve time at the end for any questions as well.
Residential meters, so your house is on the farm, service to your barn, service to your house.
Yes, correct. Yes, sir.
Is this probably going to be on the farm or whatever?
I have copies of it here. So I have hard copies if you'd like one, but we can also share the information with you as well. And here's my contact information as well as Helen's. At this point, I'm going to, got another question? Biomass is eligible. As far as the different forms, I can't answer that off the top of my head. I'll have to look into that for you. So let me get your contact information and we'll have a conversation. Okay?
Question about residents. What happens if the farmhouse is actually part of the farm is actually supplying water for the rest of the farm? So it's using electric pump water like the animals. How does that would that qualify the residents as being not having to have a separate meter?
No, it would have to have a separate meter. We can't do anything that has anything to do with anything that's residential. Jen? Yes, yes. The cost to separate the meters can be included in the project cost. Anybody else? Okay.
Just a point, rain dryer.
So it would be eligible, but being that they are emitting, they wouldn't fit under that 50% grant. They would fall under the 25%, I believe.
For monies, the most monies.
Yes, yes, good question. On a typical year prior to the Inflation Reduction Act, we would receive about $400,000 for the state of New Jersey for this program. We are now receiving 5 times that amount, and we're receiving that for the next 10 years. So this isn't a one and done. This is going to go on for the next decade. And these monies are going to be available on a rolling basis for the next decade.
Thank you. So you're approximating 5 million right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to July. The rain dryer would be 25%, but what about electric motors? Is that, or is the so we're going into an operation with big electric motors, a gas burner, and some other stuff, lights. So how does that break out?
So we would have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. Honestly, I don't think I can answer that off the top of my head.
Question. Participation in these type of programs. Incentive?
Good question. Good question. And right before I turn it over to you guys, I'm going to answer that. Yes. So we, in a prior presentation, we used an example of an energy efficiency project that was done through the BPU. And using their incentive and using our grant, they were able to, I think, reduce their input into the project by about $50,000 on a $200,000 project. So yes, and that's the reason why we're all here tonight, is so that everybody can find out how all of these resources can be combined into a single project so you can get the most benefit for your dollars at the end of the day and the most cost savings.
The reason is that we're going to be covering
At this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Eziokwubundu, who's from TRC, is going to tell you about New Jersey Clean Energies programs. Thanks, Easy.
Thank you. All right. Good going. Good evening, everybody. My name is, the shortened version at least, is Easy. My first name is Eziokwubundu Panu. Everybody calls me Easy, but I always start with a joke that my parents gave me half the alphabets in my name. So bear with me tonight. But yeah, so thank you all for joining us tonight and taking the time out from your busy schedules, busy lives. Today, I'm representing New Jersey's clean energy program. Jetty, she'll be coming from the utility point of view, but let's get the ball rolling. So our program, New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, is administered by the Board of Public Utilities. The funding for the program comes from what we call the societal benefits charge. So it's a line item on every ratepayer's bill that you pay into. So that's where all the funding comes from. I believe this fiscal year 22, we paid out a total of $130 million in incentives throughout the whole of New Jersey. So as you can see, the money's out there to tap into. So the goals of our program is the education aspect. That's where we come in to educate you about the programs that you can bundle. I say bundle, but you can also match with the USDA program as well. And it helps to meet that goal of the 100% clean energy by 2050 it's actually been updated because we're actually trying to advance it quicker. It's actually now 2035, so I apologize about that. But one thing to note on this slide here is the change in the program. So originally our programs were for existing building type projects as well as new construction or gut rehab. But as of July 1st, 2021, our programs changed a bit in the sense that those existing retrofits, so the lighting, if you're just changing out lighting on a building, on a farm, let's say the HVAC systems that you have, or let's say heating or gas cooling, those now go to the public utilities. So that would go towards JCP&L within this region. Our programs are strictly for new construction and gut rehab type projects. So if you were building a new, let's say, an indoor horticulture farm, we're seeing it build up more now. Those cannabis facilities also in the state of New Jersey. That new structure or changing out. Let's say you bought this building up and then you changed it into a grow facility, then that would meet our gut rehab aspect. So those are the distinct changes now that our program, New Jersey's Clean Energy, is strictly new construction or gut rehab. So our programs are broken down into tiers, tiers in the sense of the size. It's for any new construction, again, any new construction or gut rehab project. But one of the key criterions that it needs to meet that new construction project has to meet the meet or exceed ASHRAE 90.1 2016 level. A lot of new construction buildings automatically do so. Is the gut rehab projects that you have to make sure that you're meeting that requirement, right? But going back to the tiers, tier one is for the single measures. I'll get into that program next. This is for those prescriptive, the way I always say is cherry picking. So you're picking, let's say, the lighting in that project, the HVAC system, the gas heating, gas cooling, and then you're just applying for it, and then you're getting the rebate for that specific thing. As you go up to the higher tier, which is the pay for performance, that's more of the holistic building approach in the sense that aspects like windows that you're installing in that building, the doors, the insulation that goes into the building as well, you can possibly get incentives for that. And that process is a little bit different with respects to the size and the time that you'll get that money back. So I'll go into that right now. So the first program we have is our Smart Starts Buildings program. Again, this is just a cherry picking program that you're for that specific project, whether it be that you're building a new farm, a new building, or if for those indoor horticulture facilities or cannabis based facilities, you would tackle the prescriptive measures that are going into that building. So going towards the house, going towards the lighting, HVAC system, gas cooling, of any of those aspects. One thing about this program, we have what we call a 12-month look back period. So let's say you just recently completed an indoor horticulture facility and in the last maybe 6 months, we have a 12-month look back where let's say the equipment that you purchased and installed for that building you purchased maybe 6 months ago, there's a possibility that you'll be able to apply towards the Smart Starts Building program and still be able to receive those incentives. So it's a 12-month look back with respect to the purchase date and installation of those measures. So the measures are split into prescriptive and custom. Custom mainly because of those indoor horticulture or grow facilities, because a lot of times the HVAC systems are a bit different because they factor in the humidity of the area. So it has to be a custom equipment that goes into it. So for for aspects of custom, there's a pre-approval process that just to make sure that the equipment will meet our requirements, and that way you're not spending the money to not get incentives later on, right? So those are the prescriptive measures that you can apply towards. It's a simple application process. You would submit specific specifications on the equipment, so the HVAC system that you're going to be using, you would just submit the documentations for that as well. In a matter of, depending on how quick the turnaround and how the communication goes, you can get your rebates in a matter of weeks or months. The only aspect that I'll talk about later is the P4P process. It's a little bit more, it's longer than the Smart Starts building process, but I'll get into that later. So with respects to indoor horticulture, this is one of the areas where it corresponds to our Smart Starts buildings program. It deals with the prescriptive measures aspect. So for those indoor horticulture facilities, lighting is a huge component within them. So for this specific program, for this specific application process, it's based off the fixture wattage and the runtime of those lights as well. So we tend to see these again in those indoor horticulture or grow facilities, and they get a sizable amount of money, mainly because of the fixture amount. As you can see, for those LED fixtures over 500 watts, it's $250 per fixture. So that adds up if you have 150 fixtures in the building. So just do the math in that respect. But yeah. So this is just an example of a horticultural project that used our incentives. As you can see, the total project cost was about $130,000, and we paid out close to $35,000 in incentives. So it gives you an idea the possibilities of those types of projects. So going to the last program, the P4P program, this is again is a little bit different in the sense that the time that it takes and the aspect of size. With the Smart Start, there's no size requirements. With the P4P project program, you need to have over 50,000 square feet of planned condition space to be able to participate in this program. So as you can see, the incentive cap is a bit higher than the incentive cap for the Smart Starts. It has a 50% of project cost up to $2 million per project, or $4 million per entity. So we have a project that I'll show later that they paid out, I believe, $2 million on that incentive. So the possibilities are there, and the square footage of that facility pays it also corresponds to the possibilities of your incentive as well. So here, this just gives a breakdown of it. So with the Smart Start, you do it an application, you get your rebate. With the P4P program, is usually correlates to the milestones of that project, especially if it's a ground up new construction horticultural facility, broken down into incentives, 3 incentives. Incentive 1 is just what you're going to be doing, your energy reduction plan. Incentive 2, the installation of those measures. And then incentive 3, which is a bonus, but it's just saying, hey, have you met those measures? If you have, you get incentive 3. If not, you just don't get it. But it's not saying that you have to pay back those 2 other incentives that you get. But yeah, that's the breakdown of the programs. And going back to that question that Jetty asked, it can be through our program, USDA, or through the utilities, USDA. You wouldn't be able to apply towards both our programs, whether it be New Jersey's Clean Energy Program or the utilities, and then at USDA. Can't dabble too much in it. It would be nice, but hey, that's the laws that they set. But yeah, these are the 2 programs that we have. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More than a year now.
Okay. I can probably, that's a separate department from where we're in, but I can definitely get you the direct contact for the solar program, because the PPU does have, as you stated, a solar program. We have EV programs as well, but I'll take your contact information after that way. We can just share that information with you. Any other questions?
Into the money, obviously. So you have a rolling amount of money, application, there isn't a deadline.
For the Smart Start, yeah, the Smart Start, as long as the project isn't past that 12 month, especially if you just completed it, as long as it's not past that 12-month look back, it's good to go. You can submit an application whenever. Obviously, especially if you're in the early stages, you don't want to just buy the equipment, and you just want to make sure that we'll most likely have a call and say, hey, what are you looking to do on your project? That way you have a better understanding to make sure that the equipment that you're going to be getting actually meets our requirement. The program that you have to be early in the stages is the pay for performance program. You have to be early in the design phase to be able to apply towards that program, mainly because, again, it's a holistic building approach. So it's building every aspect, that any aspect of energy that's being used in that building, there's energy modeling that's going on to make sure the building is as energy efficient as possible. And we have partners that help the process that information for you. So I don't know if there are any other questions.
Let me ask you a question. With our particular program, small business.
Mhm.
Or different.
Mhm.
Is your program constructed the same way, or is the applicant restricted to one?
No, as long as it's not for the same project. Let's say if you're building out a horticulture, or if you as a small business owner, yeah, anything. As long as it's new construction, it could be for a dollhouse. As long as you're building a new building, you can possibly get incentives, and it's per project. So let's say you build out this building, the building down there, that's a separate project as well. So you would apply towards that as well. So as long as I think for the Smart Starts, the cap for that specific is $500,000 per electric and $500,000 per gas account. And with the P4P, the cap per project at least is $2 million incentive that you can possibly get, and per entity. So let's say Ukponu LLC, for the year, I have $4 million that I can possibly tap into for any slew of projects that I have throughout the year. I don't know if there are any other questions. Do I introduce? Okay, all right, got you. So yeah, so now we have Zoraida Medrano, who's a TRC employee as well. Yeah, and she'll be discussing the JCP&L portion.
Right, so let's begin. So thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zoraida Medrano. You guys can call me Jerry for short. And basically, I just want to give you easy kind of went over what TRC does and the transition that took place back in 2021. So TRC, we manage and we implement the programs on behalf of the utility. In this case, I'm wearing the Jersey Central Power and Light hat, and we also manage and implement the programs on behalf of the Board of Utilities. So the transition that took place was in 2021. Everything that's an existing building that goes through your local utility, your prospective utility company, for you to receive an incentive. If it's a new construction, ground up, or change of use, gut rehab, you will go through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program, as Easy discussed. So in today's agenda, we will be discussing the following. What are the benefits of the program? All the pathways in which you can participate. And basically, we will touch base a little bit on some customer success stories that have gone through this program as well, and how you will be working with us directly in the outreach team. Let's begin. So what are the benefits of this program? Let's base it on the agricultural facilities. We know that agricultural facilities, they use a substantial amount of energy, right? Agricultural operations need to be well lit, they need to be well conditioned, they need to process their dairies and use electricity to control those temperatures, right? The greenhouses need to control those temperatures. So participating in this type of program will help improve the health conditions, right? You will also become more energy efficient. It's going to help you lower your energy costs and also lower those greenhouse gas emission. And most importantly, we want to save energy and money. So that's the benefit of participating in the program. So I don't know what happened there in the slide, but that's okay. So who can participate in the program? This program is available to all Jersey Central Power and Light ratepayers within New Jersey. So if you're a commercial or industrial agricultural facility, you can participate in one of more of the pathways that I'm going to be discussing. So the pathways in which you can participate is the prescriptive, custom, and the instant discount path. And what's included in the prescriptive pathway, we have interior, exterior lighting, lighting controls, agricultural equipment, easy kind of pass the handout of what's included in agricultural. You can also do HVAC, food service equipment is also included, and there's so much more through the prescriptive path. But let's just say, for example, there's not an equipment that is not in that prescriptive list, which you will earn a fixed incentive. Then you can potentially go through the custom incentive pathway. As long as they can save energy, right? What we will need is pre-approval for that. We will look at the energy modeling and the calculations to determine what the incentive is going to be. So the incentives through the custom pathway are based on your energy savings for the year. So over here, we have a case study. This was a major department store that participated in the program. They actually retrofitted their lights. Their total project cost was $107,000. They received $26,000 in incentive, and their annual estimated saving on their bill was $5,000. This equivalated to 1,275 trees planted. So this is how we contribute. And then over here, we have another case study, which was the school. And schools are a great example because they often have a lot of energy consuming equipment, just like agricultural facilities. So in this case, it was a comprehensive project. It was a combination of prescriptive and custom. So you can participate through one or more of the paths. And they received, the total project cost was $760,000. They received $103,000 in incentive, and their estimated annual saving was $201,000. This is a 25% reduction just in energy use. So you can see how substantial that is. So here, me, Jerry, I will be your single point of contact. I will navigate you through whether if you're going through a large project or a smaller scale project, I can walk you through the process of how to submit a good application. So we will give you that guidance and even that technical support. That's what we're here for. So I'm going to open it up to the floor to see if you guys have any questions.
So, are you able to couple this to the USDA?
Yes. Yes, yes. So that's how you guys can save a substantial amount of money. We've seen projects come through the program, in particular, where it's covering up to 70% of the cost with the incentives. So now imagine combining it with the REAP incentive is substantial.
Yeah, it's just only the utility
Cannot be combined, right, right.
I can combine, let's say, when I have a project, I can do energy or output. Can't be
Correct. Right.
Yeah, I was curious because the school was an
That-
example, but I don't think the USDA.
Separate program. We have 3 divisions.
And then a solar, or is it just energy?
This is more equipment, so interior, exterior lighting, HVAC, food service, and there's so much within the JCP&L incentive guide. We have like 32-page list of products or items that can go through this program. But I actually focus on agricultural. So those are some of the equipments that you can receive an incentive. But in addition to that, HVAC and lighting is also included. So at the end of the presentation, I can provide more information on that. Sure.
The producer was interested, would they go first to one the, or the, yes, we don't, done both.
I don't know. Elizabeth, right. That's a great question. That with Elizabeth, yes. Okay.
Yeah, it makes it process.
That's a great question. And I just wanted to add, if you guys are within the JCP&L territory, through the prescriptive path, if you recently upgraded any LEDs or HVAC, you can go back 180 days and get an incentive as well. So.
You said something about how many equipment, how many, a couple thousand.
Which is, sure.
Material handling, motors and that stuff qualifies?
Yes.
And LED lights, updated lighting, material and capacity.
Cooling capacity, I will have to look into. There's a lot of equipment that do qualify, but I'll get back to you on that one.
With our programs, those BFDs, big, I mean, auto.
BFDs?
Yeah, the lighting.
The controls, yes. Yeah. Controls is a huge wave to save energy. Believe it or not, it adds up because often people don't think that, you leave the lights on, right? And just having that control where you could come in and out or knock out sensors, that's a huge, huge way to save energy and money. And it's inexpensive to actually install. All right. Thank
Well, the tree aspect is sustainable.
The sustainable part of it.
Say that being for that specific project, it would be weighted as planned. Actually planned.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Okay, so now you all get me. Some of you, most of you already know me. So my name's Jill Ott. I'm district conservationist out of the Hackettstown NRCS office. For those of you who don't know NRCS, we are a part of the USDA umbrella, so we're a federal agency. We have offices all throughout the state. My office in particular covers Warren, Sussex, Morris, Hudson, Essex, Passaic, and Bergen. I think I got them all. So we're the northern part of New Jersey. And just to give you a little background of who we are and what we do if you don't know us. So our tool or our primary product to you is a conservation plan. So we will come out on your farm. We deal with private landowners or nonprofits. We cannot work with state or like township properties. So we will look at, evaluate your resources, your natural resources that you have, such as soil, water, air, plants, animals, and now we have the human and energy component, which I'm standing in front of there. There you got energy. So that's where we come in here today to this equation. So what we can help with is we offer financial assistance through our EQIP program, Environmental Quality Incentive Program. And it is cost share, so we do not cover the full cost, but that's where I'm hearing some of these other programs might be good piggyback with what we're doing. We can help get the energy audit paid for. So that is the actual paper document that's going to spec out what changes need to be made on your operation. And that's where we come in to help you make those changes that are spec'd out. And here, you know, I've been hearing all of these things being talked about here earlier tonight. So that's all things that we can help cost share the changes, the improvements. So just right here, I just wanted you to see the different offices throughout the state. Our state office did recently move. It's now in Hamilton Square, more centrally located. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of these field offices, or I can put you in contact with the right person. We do have current application deadline for Inflation Reduction Act additional dollars that that we received. So that brings our, I know you're interested in the money. So don't quote me on exacts for these, but New Jersey typically can spend about $8 million in our EQIP program annually. Now that's for everything. That's for cover crop. It's for livestock stuff. Some of that's easement purchase stuff. As I see your faces out here, that's what's making me think of these different projects. We do wildlife stuff. So it's everything all together, and forestry. But we spend about $8 million, and IRA is giving us 1.2 additional million dollars just in that funding. We are taking applications till May 1 for those interest in that program. Right now, I was told that program is going to focus on climate smart practices, so it is a little more narrow focus with emphasis on cover crop, conservation tillage, which is minimum till, no till, and conservation cover. So if you have interest in any of that or anything else, come see me. We'll get you signed up. It is a continuous sign up program, but just that IRA is kind of focused on that May 1 deadline. Any questions? Yes. Yes, a lot of our climate smart practices are carbon sequestration focused practices. I did not bring the list with me, but I can brainstorm off the top of my head. If you have something in particular we can talk about.
So you say May 1?
May 1, yes, a couple weeks. But we are continuous sign up too. So pretty much the last 2 years we have funded almost anything that came through the door. Nothing works quick in the federal government. So right now, if you were to apply today, you'd be applying for a 2024 contract, unless you get selected for this special IRA funding, which will get you a 2023 contract. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laura Tesseri, North Jersey RC&D Executive Director. So North Jersey RC&D, we are a nonprofit, an agricultural nonprofit. We work with farmers within a 6-county area, as you can see above. And so Warren County squarely fits into our 6-county area. We're a small staff, but we work primarily through education, through research, innovation, working with other nonprofits, and having our staff go out onto the farm to help really farmers connect with other resources, right? So kind of that go-between is what we look to do. So we've got agricultural sustainability is one of our 3 sections that we work in. And we're here today because we had received a grant from Rural Development. So we've been working with Jen and Maryann for the past few years. The program I'm here today to talk about is this North Jersey Renewable Energy Development Assistance Program. We heard there's these REAP funds, right? Like you heard, there's many more REAP funds that are available, that are out there. You can apply for federal dollars towards installation of a renewable energy project. And so, and it's not just solar, it could be solar, it could be wind, it could be geothermal, the list goes on. We are working with a technical consultant, NSAVE, and we have performed over 25 of these renewable energy assessments thus far. Has anybody in the room gotten one? I should know offhand, but I know we've worked with a bunch of farmers to get them done. The reason we wanted to do this is, well, farmers say, well, who do we trust? How do we know how much renewable energy we can generate on farm? And so if you we'll have their technical consultant. You sign up on our website. One, it's super easy. It's your farm name and your contact info. And then our technical consultant and save will reach out to you. Then they'll talk to you about your needs, your concerns, what kind of project you might desire, and they can evaluate up to 2 projects. So say you want to do solar, or you want to do solar and wind, a small wind turbine. Doesn't have to be a huge wind turbine. And then you can work through, they'll do it all by satellite imagery. So you'll have to get 3 years of your past energy usage, right? So contact your utility provider and provide it, or sign a waiver and let them get the information from your utility provider. And then they work through they see how much energy is good. Where is it the best place to put the solar array? Is it on the ground? Is it on a roof mount? And then where is the best, do you have enough wind to make this worthwhile for you to go forward with? And so it really educates, right? You'll get a report, an assessment at the end, and that assessment is a component of what's needed to do the REAP application. So what we're trying to do as a nonprofit is to be able to have an easier step to be able to consider your projects, to know, is it worthwhile for me to go forward with this application? Because they'll calculate what your REAP benefit, would be, your project amount, and they'll help stepwise you through it. We recently hosted a couple of lunch and learns so that you can learn, if you're on a preserve farm, what are the requirements SADC has there, what are different agrivoltaic, possibilities that you can do on farm, as well as what are the REAP opportunities. So these lunch and learns are now on our YouTube channel, which is new for us. So we've got a couple of lunch and learns there. And then the sign up, right, super easy, just your farm name and your contact info. So we've been doing this for a few years now. We've done about 25. I'd say we have about probably about 20, maybe 15 left to go. So there's not a huge availability for these assessments, but if you're interested, I'd welcome you to sign up, and then you can take that next step. So they'll even work through and say, do you count as an agricultural producer? Like the 2 definitions, agricultural producer or a rural business. And they'll say, okay, do you have the documentation that yes, you're good for submitting as an agricultural producer. Sometimes the producers don't have that, and then they'll say, well, maybe you fit under the small business category, so then they'll evaluate there. So they really help give some of that initial technical assistance to see if the REAP application would be good for you. I think that's all we have. I'm going to turn it back to Maryann. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, or if we can take larger questions. Yes.
Why is it that you build a system maybe you can build it? What key goal is to try to make renewable energy? Huge buildings, actually, they're covered. No, you're limited to about 10% over.
It's to offset on farm use, right? So it's to offset. I don't have that answer, but I just know that. Our technical consultant has done sometimes a third evaluation that is not then REAP eligible, but a third one saying, what would you be able to generate if you covered the whole roof? So, I mean, it's not a big stretch, right? But you should be able to have that information at your fingertips. But that hasn't done often, but they've calculated it out.
Second thing is SADC, so I got the solar farm, I put solar in my section on a building that didn't have permission from the SADC because I didn't have to. Now the SADC solar on my farm, my exception. It's absolutely.
I don't know SADC answers either, but I do know that they don't preclude, that you can still put solar on farm. So there are pathways forward, and they've tried to, I guess, streamline, but there's still definitely an SADC application process to go through.
Yeah, let's do emissions. Let's assume that the grid can handle it. Well, let's remove. No, thank you. So what?
So I think there was a couple of questions that maybe came in through the chat, or folks that had joined us online weren't able to hear. So I just want to repeat that last question. The question was, if I have the roof area to install the solar, why can't I install the solar to put into the grid? And the answer to that really is the intention of this program is to benefit small businesses and agricultural producers. And that's why it's limited to the on-farm use. We're not trying to build utilities.
I have one for Jerry. Pumping, irrigation, that qualifies in there. But geothermal does, but you. And so then you would include pumping and irrigation.
Correct.
Within New Jersey, clean energy for. Reason I.
So just to repeat that for the folks online, the question was, is geothermal included under the clean energy programs? And the answer to that is?
Yes, for clean energy.
No for JCP&L. Okay. Yes, sir.
So we do have a small rental drill, that we rented out, Christian Match, so it's our city employees, also an RCS, partner employee, manages that, so any contact us, contact him. It's still a fair amount of use and these days, people are testing out. So we also have a couple other programs you can sign up for, so we've got a cost share program, right now ourselves, it's open. So I encourage you to look at our website and see any questions.
Anybody else? Oh, yes. I know that grow facilities were mentioned in some of the presentations. I just want to clarify that for federal funds, REAP program, no cannabis is allowed. If you're growing hemp for industrial purposes, that's allowed. Anything that gets into CBD or THC is not legal with the federal government. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for,
Any grants out there, electric vehicle? John Deere.
Would New Jersey. Whether it be.
So the question for those online was, are there programs for electric vehicles? And so the clean energy folks do have incentives for charging stations and for vehicles. We also, under our community programs, have some funds for electric vehicle charging stations. And if you're interested in that, we can get you some more information on those programs.
That's for public bodies and nonprofits.
Yes, public bodies and nonprofits would be the applicant. Yes, sir.
Solar, the solar hot water.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Solar hot water.
Yes. Yes, I believe so. Refrigeration, HVAC as well.
There aren't any other questions. I think our presenter might hang around for a few minutes afterwards if you have any one-on-one. I know NRCS has a lot of other programs. If you have any questions on ag programs or RC&D, like they said, they didn't just touch the surface on them. We do have a questionnaire. I don't know if they got handed out, but they were in the back when you came in. Just a quick, how'd you hear about this? Whether you thought it was helpful. And with that, there's no more questions. Thank you everyone for coming. There's some questions in the hallway, and we'll County Board of Ag meeting at 8 o'clock, and we're all welcome to stay, hear about policy and what's of interest in Maryann County. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.